Welcome everybody to this week's edition of Sedaru Live. This week we have a very special day for you. We're going to be doing a utility showcase with the city of Woburn, Massachusetts. My name is Dylan McFeetris. I am the product marketing manager for Sedaru. And for those of you that have joined us for the last few, we got a little bit of a different flavor today. So very excited to introduce a couple other people that are part of this call today with me. I've got Jamie Persino. He's a GISP professional, and he's the leader of Sedaru's customer success department. Back in the day, a few years ago, he was the project manager for Woburn, Massachusetts. So he's going to be joining us to do a little demo. He's going to talk with our special guest here today. We have Jay Corey. He's a professional engineer. He is the City of Woburn, Massachusetts city engineer. And the two of them are going to go through a lot of exciting things about their relationship during the project and how Sedaru and Woburn have created a partnership to see through the exciting things they want to get doing. So we're going to go ahead and do our normal housekeeping here, talk a little bit about our social media. So for those of you who are not aware, we are very broad in our social media platforms here, and we've added a new channel this week. We have a number of videos for both some of these sessions that we've done, as well as some learning videos and things now on a YouTube channel, in addition to our existing Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook feeds. And then finally, we usually start out our webinars here with our drops continuum, right? So we've talked about this before. It's a utility automation path. We find that most utilities are somewhere on this spectrum, starting from the full paper-based workflows of the old days, all the way to the self-driving future of utilities. What we're going to be really talking about today is how Woburn moved through the first couple steps here into the optimized, moving through digital into real time. Really excited to have these guys chat a little bit and talk about it. And with that, I'm going to hand it off to Jay. And Jay, if you could introduce yourself a little bit for us and introduce the city of Woburn to everyone on the call, I'd appreciate it.
Sure thing. Yeah, I'm Jay Corey. I'm the city engineer for the city of Woburn, Massachusetts. City of Woburn is about 40,000 residents, and during the day with commerce and business, we go up to close to 80,000 people. We have a groundwater supply, 5 wells, which go to a water treatment plant where we remove iron and manganese and meet the lead and copper rule. We produce about 3.5 million gallons a day on our own, and to get to the additional flow that we need to meet the 6.5 million gallon a day average flow, we go to the water store, the Massachusetts Water Resources Authority, where we buy whatever our additional needs are. We have 2 additional points that we can take water from through pressure reducing valves that bring in up to 15 million gallons a day from them. We like to produce our own water because we produce ours for about $2,000 a million gallons, and we buy theirs for about $4,700 a million gallons. So we are obviously the cheaper alternative. We have about 11,000 points, 1,000 commercial, 10,000 residential, about 165 miles of water main, close to 185 miles of sewer. We don't have a water treatment facility, thank God. We use the Massachusetts Water Resources Authority as our point of discharge, and we pay them to treat our sewage. Our annual water and sewer budget is about $18 million a year. When we first started looking at Sedaru, I had seen this about 5 years ago at a technology conference. And back then, if the water department or the sewer department wanted to give me information, they would hand me something that looked like this. And it was all different shapes and sizes, backs of envelopes, little notes here and there. And we would try and compile it to help Tony Blazowski, he's our water treatment plant manager, assemble his annual statistic report. Well, it was difficult because we'd go through and it'd say, okay, these 5 valves were open, but there was no record of them ever being closed. So Sedaru gives us a platform where Lori Scalise, she's out there someplace, she's our water billing manager, She can send out crews to do water shutoffs, water turn-ons. She can send them out to do customer service, any number of things. So what we have is this giant database where all our records are finally stored. And instead of having pieces of paper and a spreadsheet here and there, we actually have this visual database that we keep all our information on. It grew with baby steps, but it's getting to be a pretty workable system. So the challenge was we couldn't get new people, so we got something that allowed them to interact with the world in the way it is today instead of being 1954. I see we changed the screen. This must be time for me to move on.
Thanks, Jay. I think if you look back at some of your statistics for Woburn, I think my favorite is that you have 13 Dunkin' Donuts in your little town there. That always makes me smile.
I actually think we have 14 now.
14 now? It's been a couple months since I've been there. So
there you go.
And that you're affectionately called the Woo. I really think that's cool. So if we look back a few years, Jay, I think the first project we worked together on was the meter maintenance program. And I got to meet you and work closely with Lori. So what was the need or the beginning of that project that turned you on to us?
Well, again, it was the ability to distribute crews. After we had put in 11,000 points of new meters and MIUs, and we have a fixed network that reads them all. With anything, everything was new. We had some changeouts to do. We had some MIUs that we had to do. So the way to do this, we were setting up kind of a new department, if you will. So Lori was put in charge as the water billing manager. She was in charge of the crews. So she would get calls. She would schedule everything, put it into Omni, which went into the iPads in the fields. She set up several crews, one for maintenance, one for distribution maintenance, and one for the water meters. So she was able to keep track of everything through the work orders that she produced, and the field crew actually filling in all the information that you're showing on the screen. So she had a complete record of each visit that they made to every customer that was on a work order. It was a great way of keeping information.
Yeah, and I was able to work closely with her to create all these workflows we see on the screen here, whether it was maintaining your meters, replacing your meters, or caring for your customers. So if we take a peek at your change out form, every time a work order comes through, your field users are going to have some specific notes on what they're expected to look at or do in the field. And we can track some really good metrics in here for your team, so you know when they start and stop their visit. But also if they make some changes here, so if they change a meter head or if they change the entire meter, if the MIU number changes, all these things can be tracked and pushed into a KPI in Omni, and those are easily reviewed and acted upon by Lori and the team in Omni.
One of the nice things, particularly with the water meter crew, it has a timestamp on it, so Lori can actually see, or Tony, the water treatment plant manager, can actually see when they went to a call, if they responded to it in the appropriate period of time, and if it was completed. And she can see on her screen if they're not busy, then she can give them something else to do. So it's a great way of being able to communicate with the field team without having to make several phone calls. And they can chat back and forth on the iPad and through Omni. So it's a good way to work.
So the benefits that you guys got from this, a lot less paper use. So you'd say you cut that about 90%?
Oh, easily. And the beauty of it is that any record that's made, I don't care what it's for, every bit of information is assigned to a customer, and that stays in the database for several years, and we can even backtrack beyond that. But now, instead of having to say, gee, were we ever out at this house before? Yeah, Robbie remembers being there maybe in February. We can go back and actually see that somebody was there on a given date at a certain time and what they did.
Yeah, and there, like you said, that data remains there. That asset history is going to populate at the bottom of the screen here, and there's, that's going to be readily available for your users down the line. And there's no after the fact data entry. So when you pick up that pile of papers, Jay, you don't have to cycle back through that and figure out what happened. We can just throw that into a report and make it pretty useful.
True. Now, when we first set this up, this was a huge change in the water system. In Woburn, every department is a silo, and I call it the cone of silence. Don't tell anybody anything. Nobody wants to know we don't want anybody to know what we're doing. Well, this allows people to see, and I mean, from my perspective as a city engineer, I don't care what people are doing. I want to know what's going on in the system and give Tony advice if it's reasonable to do. On the other hand, people now have accountability. And in the beginning, they were frightened of it because it's like Big Brother's watching. They want to see what we're doing. And in a way, it made them toe the line. But now that they've been using it, they see the value in it. And certainly the managers see the value in it. And people are accepting it. And it's a great system. It really is.
Well, that's a pretty good segue into using the data to talking about WuStat. So I mentioned before that Woburn is affectionately referred to as the Woo. So I love that you guys created WuStat. Why don't you tell us a bit about that?
Sure. The mayor got a grant from the state about 5 years ago where they use statistical analysis for the larger departments, fire department, police department, Department of Public Works, to evaluate their efficiencies. Why are they using so much overtime, and what are they applying it to? Well, with Sedaru, we're able to drill down and do statistics on the amount of work, the type of work, and the various things that were done. Yeah, this is a good one here. This shows trends in hydrants for the last year. You say to yourself, well, why were they doing so much hydrant work in December and February, which are the winter months? Well, out of the roughly 2,800 hydrants that we have, there's a list of about 120 that don't drain well. So they have to go out and check these to make sure that they don't freeze and cause a much bigger issue. If you look back in July and September, those are typical flushing periods, and you can see where hydrants were operated to flush the system. What's nice about it is, again, every time you operate an asset in the system, there's a record of it. And that record is stored, so we can see how many times we've gone back to a certain hydrant. When we're doing unidirectional flushing, what we like to do is skip every hydrant every other year, so that we're exercising all the valves and all the hydrants within a 2-year period. So this gives us the ability to check that and see that we're doing it correctly.
Yeah, and you also had some benefits on the sewer side, looking at the year-over-year analysis for your sewer maintenance, correct? Your hotspots?
Yeah, when Len Berman, who's the deputy director for the DPW, when he saw what was capable of the water system and how the crews had adopted it and treated it as their own. Let me step back for 1 minute. One of the reasons why the crews are so accepting of this is that when we initially developed the workflows, it was like they were kicking and screaming. It's like, yeah, just give us what somebody else has. So Jamie produced a typical a workflow for hydrant maintenance, let's say. Well, they took that and they said, well, I don't like this, I don't like that, and maybe it should have this. So Jamie altered it. All of a sudden they said, well, it'd be really nice if we had this, this, and this as well. Jamie altered it again. Then it became their form. They created it. it's user-friendly, so now there's acceptance and they actually enjoy using it. And they're always coming up with suggestions as to how we can make it better, things that are unnecessary, things that might add to it. So it's an ongoing work in progress, but once they owned it, because you changed it to make it what they wanted, that made a huge difference. So anyhow, getting back to sewers, Lenny has a sewer crew. They go and visit about 15 to 20 sites on a monthly basis that are historically maintenance problems. Typically, we get backups, which cause backups in homes, which cause insurance problems. So what they did is they took the 20 locations, put them into Sedaru on the Omni platform, and the crews have a regular schedule of going to each one of these areas to see if it's flowing properly, see if it's backing up, perform maintenance, and every time we get a record of it. In the old days, they used to, and Fred Russell is out there someplace, I saw him. He's DPW superintendent going back to 2005. Fred and I used to have a lot of fun working together. He's in another city now, doing very well. But what used to happen, and Fred used to tell me, they'd go out and they'd look at these things and they'd say, oh, great, this one's starting to back up. Don't do anything. We'll come out here on overtime on Saturday. Well, that's with WuStat, evaluating these problem areas and the overtime that goes to it. It's greatly reduced the amount of overtime that's been placed on these, and normal maintenance has become a regular thing now. So we've gotten a lot of benefits out of both Sedaru and WuStat.
All right. So some other statistics. You guys track a lot of data around your water quality and your chemical additions. This came from a need to meet your regulatory compliance. I got to meet and know and work with Tony on this to understand his needs within the report. Can you set the stage for this one?
Sure. Fred Russell brought Tony in back in 2004, and Tony has been absolutely fantastic. I love the man. Great to work with. He's in charge of the water treatment facility, all the pump stations, the tanks, distribution system, soup to nuts. Going back to when we started Sedaru, Tony was like, well, if it's good for Lori, she can use it, and I see a couple of other things, but I'm not going to use it. And he was.
He actually told me that. He actually told me that in the first meeting.
Sure.
I'll never forget it.
Sure. Yeah, you can do J stuff, but leave me out of it. Well, as it turns out, Tony has these forms that he has to fill out for each one of the 5 chemicals that we use at the plant. And it was taking him anywhere from 10 to 15 hours a month to put all these together. Well, he saw some efficiency in what we were doing, other things, and we hooked you guys up, and Tony showed you the forms. Jamie was able to produce the forms where we glean the information on the chemicals from the SCADA system. It goes into a spreadsheet which populates at the end of the month the standard DEP forms. All Tony has to do then is take a look at them, sign them, and email them to DEP. And it's saved him substantial period of time. He absolutely loves them, and it's kind of made him buy in on Sedaru. So he sees other applications that, slowly but surely we're going to be using. One of the things that we're building out now was Sedaru's water loss program, where we sum all our supplies through the SCADA, and then we subtract our consumption from the water meters. So it gives us a sorry, I was reading Lori Rhodes' little text there.
Gotcha. So we have a collection of forms that we built in coordination with Tony that fill these reports. So we have on the screen here is the water treatment plant rounds. We also have a well log. We have some pump station rounds. And we're tracking information around chemical addition, production, contact time, field sampling, and even stuff around your sludge report. And this is a pretty extensive form here that, you know, your water operator, Scott, and his team over there will log all these numbers in, hydroxide, phosphate, and all the way down the list here. And as they enter them, we have automatic calculations within here for them to see. This does go straight into the report, but we also have validation around these numbers in case the numbers don't match, or in case of an hour meter, you know, it has to be larger than its previous value. Things like this to kind of help out to mitigate some of those data errors that can happen, and just to really protect that data integrity.
Yeah, there's some great checks and balances that have been built into the forms that, you know, that they don't make it idiot proof. Like I said, when we put the SCADA system in back in, I think 2002, and Fred was here, one of the comments Fred made was like, it's not idiot proof, but we made better idiots.
Yep.
I thought that was a riot.
So
anyhow,
all of that data that your team's collecting actually builds this report. And Tony can click his mouse a few times, pull up this report, and it's going to have all of his values inside. He gives it a quick look to make sure everything is in order. And he can basically print this off or send it off to the state.
in order for Tony to fill that piece of paper out before, he needs 30 other pieces of paper to do it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's, you know, it really is a time saver. And the state appreciates it because everything gets there electronically. And it's in a spreadsheet as opposed to a scanned form.
Yep. So kind of in the same vein, we're going to move on, Jay, to your SCADA feed.
Sure.
So maybe you can tell us a little bit about your SCADA system and maybe the needs that pushed this project.
Yeah, SCADA, the SCADA that we use is iFixHistorian. It does everything soup to nuts. It essentially runs the plant. It has checks and balances so that if something goes out of kilter or outside of the parameters that are set, it calls the phone of the water treatment plant manager or the operators so that somebody can react immediately. One of the things that we like to do is I like to go on and just see what's the working pressure in the system, what are our flow rates from our various supply sources, and just get an idea of what's going on. Do we have any problems? Is everything fine? Well, in order to get an iFixHistorian license in my office, it's an expensive venture. By putting some of the basic parameters from SCADA into the Sedaru platform, then any manager in the city that has a license with Sedaru can quickly go in and scan things, take a look, see what's going on. Yeah, why don't you take a look at that tank level and we'll show you, you know, one of the things that we look for.
Yeah, so anytime you need to jump into these, Jay, and I know you know this, is you can jump into our trending view.
Just pull the tile down.
Drag that value down in here, and
There you have it.
You can change your time here. And
Yep.
I wanted to ask you about this trough here back on the 7th of July.
Sure, that was a 103-degree day when the entire city just said, all right, turn your hoses on, turn your sprinklers on, fill your pool with water. Everybody just went outside, wash your car, do everything you can. When Tony saw this, he reacted by going out to meter 200 and decreasing the pressure on the PRV so that we could take more water in from MWRA. And as you can see since then, things have normalized in the system. It's almost flat through there. We've had a very hot spell the past several days, and all the meters in our own treatment are keeping up with the demand.
Yeah, so it's really easy for you to get in here and find the anomalies. You know, if you have pressure drops, pressure increases, tank level drops, things like that.
Sure. And again, in keeping with the same vein, when we first put SCADA in, it offers an opportunity for any of the other managers of the city to see what's going on, including the mayor. The mayor can get in and take a look at things. And
Yeah, and what we've done here is we've made it pretty user-friendly where we've just tied your GIS features to a number of different SCADA values.
Sure.
That were handpicked by you and the team, the things that you wanted to see, and we were able to produce that data through a link there.
Yep. And this is a precursor of building out our water loss application as well. Yep. Once we have all the SCADA information that we need in there, we're still waiting on getting Ethernet into one of the meter cabinets. Then we'll have all three. We'll have our 2 meters, our water treatment plant. We have all of our consumption data from our meters. So it's easy for us to see water loss in the system. We have about 7 service areas that we deal with. Each one has a meter, a master meter, if you will. So by deducting consumption from the master meter, we can see if there's an anomaly. Normally we'd be losing, excuse me, anywhere from 10 to 12% of the system. If we see more than that, then we either have a fire, we could have a break, something that somebody should pay attention to. So it's a great feature that we're looking forward to.
Yep. And if you wanted to pull any of that data out, it's a pretty easy, a couple clicks here to create an Excel file.
Pretty simple.
For analysis or sharing. So let's, I know we talked a good bit about the sewer program earlier, Jay, but let's kind of go back to that for a second.
Sure.
And this was, I believe, part of Project 2. Can you set the stage one more time for this program on the needs?
Sure. Well, in addition to the workflow for the maintenance of the sewers, Lenny or Jay Duran, the DPW superintendent, can schedule any routine maintenance. They can, again, they go into Omni, they create a work order that goes out to the iPad of the sewer crew. I think they're running 2 crews, one for drain, one for sewer. They can do general maintenance, but we also keep track of the sewer pump stations. So through the SCADA system and through the sewer maintenance program, we can see what's going on because they can generally be problematic as well. One of the other things that we're looking at for new workflow, and Matt's been working on that with Jamie, is moving our catch basins cleaning from one platform that we've been using in People GIS over to Sedaru just for continuity. And we see applications in Sedaru that are unavailable in the other platform that I think that we'd like to take advantage of going forward.
Yeah, we'll actually, we'll touch on that here in a moment.
Sure.
Some of the workflows we have on the sewer side for you include manhole inspections and line cleaning, kind of the staples of the sewer side in the Nova workflows anyway. You know, I can pop into a manhole inspection here real quick and look at some of the data that your team can collect. You know, you already alluded to your hotspots. Hotspot identification is easy, and it's going to persist in your system. You can always fall back on that, and you can track those if new ones happen to sprout up.
Now we've been talking. Excuse me, Jamie. I didn't mean to interrupt. We've been talking in house. We've been doing since 2002. Started with Fred Russell, manhole inspection program. Where we've got some hundreds of thousands of sewer pipe in the city, about 180 miles, whatever that works out to be. And thousands of manholes. And we've had a consultant going through the past 18 years doing inspections on each and every one, doing cleaning of the lines and all that maintenance information. At some point in time, we'd like to move over and populate these inspection forms that we have. Just a matter of putting the commas in the right places.
Right. This has really given Lenny and the team a good structure so they can avoid duplication of work. Lenny can track the production of his crews pretty granularly. You can track it by the asset, by the employee. And it's something, going back to WuStat, we covered a good bit of this, that transparency does go back to your stakeholders. And again, the 90% less paper that you're using within this workflow, no after the fact data entry. There's so many problems that were solved here and a lot of gained efficiency throughout this.
What I like to call it is reusable data. Everything that we have, again, pieces of paper get lost. And it used to frustrate me when I asked somebody in the DPW, do you have this? It's, yeah, we have that on a list, but we don't know where it is. Well, now everybody knows where everything is. Everybody has access to it, and it's reusable knowledge. And it's just there. And it's great because you can go back and see. And at my age, I don't remember 4 years ago all the time. So it's nice to just click a button and see what happened and refresh the mind.
Right on. I always like saying enter it once, use it 1,000 times.
There you go.
So I'd like to, kind of the last section I'd like to talk about is the relationship that we've built together, Jay.
Sure.
I've had the pleasure of working with you and your team and kind of watching you grow through all this, but I'd really like to get your perspective on, how was, maybe if you want to go high level on adoption to the software, support by the Sedaru team, kind of how was your experience there?
Well, again, as I told you early on, Jamie, I treated this just like any project where we have a design consultant, a contractor, an owner's project manager, and the owner. We all look for, obviously, you're a vendor, you do this for profit. You have to be efficient. We have to get our product. Our relationship thus far has been excellent. You guys have told us what's available. You followed through with it. You would adapt the workflows to make it user-friendly for the users in the system. And you're very responsive to our needs. Extremely professional. I think we've had a great association, and it's something that I just see so many opportunities in the future to build on. It's been fun for us, and I think it has improved our efficiency, and overall we've saved a lot of money by doing it this way.
Well, thank you for that, Jay. That was very kind. So next steps with Sedaru, your relationship isn't ending. You're going to have to deal with me a bit longer. I know that I've spoke with Matt, your GIS manager, around the use of Sedaru Studio. So Studio is an app where you and your team can get in and manage, create the forms that we looked at today. So Matt will have control over those. And we're looking to maybe start that out in your storm sewer program. And you already mentioned Sedaru loss. So there's a couple of next steps here that I look to continue on with you and your team.
Sure. Well, I think that the suite that you're talking about, Matt, I saw Brett Gonzalez out there too. He's now the DPW superintendent in Stoneham. He was assistant city engineer, GIS coordinator here. He's been replaced by Matt Barrett, who sits behind me. And Matt's excited about what you have. He's very interested in developing and modifying some of the workflows, and we'll look forward to moving forward to that in the future.
Yeah, I was really impressed with, Matt's a GIS guy like I am, but he has some deep knowledge on the storm side.
Oh, you're all geeks.
He impressed me with that. So Jay, it was great talking with you and kind of recounting our past successes. And so I want to thank you for your time and candor. So super appreciated.
My pleasure.
I know for me, it was great working with your team, and spending time with the end users, getting exposure to your system, the challenges you might face, the different personalities you have in your users, and understanding what it's going to take to make this successful. And it's been super rewarding to watch your team evolve. And I very much look forward to continuing that growth with you in the future.
Appreciate it.
Awesome.
So Dylan, back to you, sir.
Yeah, awesome, guys. That was fantastic. Big thank you to Jay and to Jamie for holding down the fort there, and a great journey conversation. I got really excited when, you know, a lot of the things we talk about improving the efficiencies are hard to show on screen, but when you guys showed that SCADA integration and, you know, the outcome after you guys made that small intervention on the tank levels, you know, seeing it flatline, seeing it go right where it needs to be is pretty awesome to see how that little bit of data can really help with everything that's going on in your system. So for those of you out there on the call still, we are looking for some questions. I have a couple here for them, but if you guys want to throw a few more in, I will we'll roll through them real quick. So very much appreciate it. Jay, the first question is for you. We have a question from someone asking, how many people are in your water department?
3 operators, so 1 treatment plant manager, 1 water billing manager and her assistant, 2 water meter people, and 5 distribution people. I think that Tony has 2 more people that he's waiting to hire, but everything seems to be frozen these days with COVID and the mayor thinking that we don't have enough money.
So by my count, Jay, that's about 10 to 12 people. Does that sound right?
In that order, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. All right, this next one here, this is for Jamie. We had an attendee on the call from a wholesaler water district, and he was saying that they do meter calibration every 6 months, and he was wondering how Sedaru could help them with the calibration of their meters.
Yeah, I've actually worked with a couple customers, one in Colorado, to build some workflows for bench testing of meters. And, you know, they had a pretty rigorous testing system that they were using, but they were entering it all. They were writing it down and entering it all through Excel. And we were able to build a couple of forms for them to just enter that, you know, kind of in the shop there as they're testing those meters. And it was pretty successful. So absolutely.
Very cool. Very cool. And I'm sure, Jamie, that we wouldn't have to necessarily just do bench test, right? We could do an in-site test if they had the equipment they need for that.
Mm-hmm. That was just
Very cool. Okay. Yeah, no, appreciate it. And I don't see any other questions at the moment. And Jay or Jamie, anything else you guys would like to add to just kind of the people out there that are watching? Anything else that's a good takeaway before we go? Jay, you've got some good one-liners out there. So.
Yeah, I've seen, I just went through the participant list, and there's a bunch of guys that I know out there. I'd love to get together with them with a cocktail, but unfortunately we're stuck doing things on Zoom these days. Again, from my perspective and for your venture, I just see so many opportunities. I see just so many advantages that we've gained from using Sedaru in terms of reusable knowledge and keeping track of things and accountability, that as a manager, I just think it's a great system, and it saves us a lot. I highly recommend it.
Awesome. I think we're going to close with that then, Jay, if that's all right. So thank you, everybody, for attending today. We'll be having another webinar here in a few weeks, and always excited to hear from you and to have you suggest any future topics for these series. And judging by how well today went, I think we're probably going to try and do a few more of these client showcases. It's resonated, I think, with everybody. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, Jay.
Have a good one.
Have a good one, everybody.
Thank you.